Quazi here. On the 6th of November 2023, something happened that changed my life forever. My first child was born. Something that was extremely peculiar to me though that morning was that he was not only born on the 6th of November, but it was also 66 degrees outside that morning. And we arrived at the hospital at 6 a.m. He was born 6 hours later, exactly at noon. This was very eerie to me, so I googled the significance of the number 6. It said that the number simply meant that I was either lucky or in alignment with my purpose. And sure, throughout the whole pregnancy, my wife and I called my son Mr. Perfect because he was on track with every single health marker. But that got me wondering, what do numbers really mean? Do they have an inherent meaning, or do we assign them our own? This took me down a deep rabbit hole in trying to understand the significance of numbers throughout history. For example, ancient Egyptians used numbers for practical purposes like astronomy and building construction, and to this day we don't understand how the pyramids were even constructed with such geometrical precision thousands of years ago with the math and technology that's available to us today. On the other hand, in Indian philosophy, particularly in the Vedic and later yogic traditions, numbers were used to explain the cosmos and spiritual principles. The number 108 was always considered sacred in Hinduism thousands of years ago, but only quite recently we figured out why. One reason is that the distance between the Earth and the Sun is approximately 108 times the Sun's diameter. Similarly, the distance between the Earth and the Moon is 108 times the Moon's diameter. So, as you go through life, you may believe that the numbers that you see day to day are a mere coincidence. But what if they're not? What if they are there to enable you to shift into a completely different lifeline, but you just never notice them? Just take this thought experiment, for example. Do numbers really exist in our reality? Think of any number greater than 1 and 0. We can only assume that they exist because we grossly simplify quantities because of the linear mathematics that we've been taught throughout our whole lives. For example, if you had a room filled with 3 sheep, can you really say that there are 3 sheep? Or is there 1 sheep in 3 distinct points in space? Saying that there are 3 sheep means that these 3 distinct objects are exactly the same in quality, occupying the same point in space. But we know that no 2 objects can ever be a perfect copy of each other. This is a gross misunderstanding of the true nonlinear nature of the world, which requires a different approach to mathematics, which I believe was once possessed by the yogis and ancient Egyptians. And throughout the last 7 years, I have tapped into what I believe to be a stream of nonlinear mathematics that nobody has ever taught before. And I truly believe that when people are able to fully use this to its full potential, it will fundamentally shift the way we view and experience this very reality. In this video, if you will let me, I'm going to show you how to tap into this new dimension of existence. So with that, let's get started. So the very first thing that we have to understand is why we're experiencing this particular reality that we're experiencing and not a different version of reality. So ask yourself this: why are you experiencing the reality that you're experiencing right now? The reality in which maybe you are living the life that you are, maybe you're fully satisfied with the life that you're living, you're maybe very grateful with the life that you have, or you're not quite satisfied. You know you've been destined for something more. So it could be one of those two, or it could be something completely neutral. You feel completely indifferent to the life that you're living. But chances are you're either very, very pleased, or more likely you're not as pleased. Why are we experiencing this reality that we're experiencing? In order to fully understand that, we have to understand the theory of the quantum field, which basically states that every single possible reality or combination of reality that can be experienced, they are all superimposed on top of one another. If I look at this as a single plane of existence, if I bunch this up, this becomes the enfolded universe, right? So now you can see that there are multiple different universes that are stacked on top of each other. In this possible combination, we're going through one timeline. We're experiencing one lifeline, okay? So it could be one of these, many different number of layers. What determines the reality that we're experiencing? To fully understand that, we have to understand how a quantum event gets manifested into reality. So if you understand the Copenhagen interpretation, you'll probably understand that there is this thing called the wave-particle duality. An electron can either be existing as a particle or a wave, depending on when you observe it. And you can never tell both the velocity and the position of an electron. If you can determine the position, you're not able to determine the velocity. If you're able to determine the velocity, you're not able to determine the position. So that basically goes to show that every single quantum event, what affects it, like that double slit theory, is the moment of observation. The key word here is observation. When we observe an event in our lives, when we attribute attention to it, it then materializes into reality when we give it our attention. So if we go back to that bunched up theory of universes, how we can properly demonstrate that is via the analogy of a film reel. If you think of your attention as the light, the projector light that shines through a particular reel, you look at life and all the possible combinations of reality as a film reel. Your attention is projecting light onto a particular sector. Wherever our attention goes, energy will flow. When we give attention to whatever event is happening in our lives, there is a likelihood that it materializes into reality, just like that electron. Just like that wave pattern gets interrupted and it gets manifested into particle. Before observation, it's a potential in this quantum field. After observation, it fully materializes into reality. But now there's a very crucial part to this. Attention is the reason reality manifests, but something influences. There are three main types of attention that we all possess that determines which sector of reality that we're manifesting. If this is a stimulus, an event that happens in our lives, if we perceive this as a positive event, it will shift us into corresponding lifelines that are positive. That's the first type, positive attention. And positive attention is kind of like you feel good about something, you have positive associations to it, you basically have a positive relationship to it. The other type of attention that we have, that is starkly the opposite, is negative attention. The final type of attention that we all possess is neutral attention, the attention without any sign. So this is a big fat zero. All the yogis and ancient texts are always talking about this neutral attention. Why? Neutral attention has the power to dissolve reality. Positive and negative attention have the power to attract and repel reality. Now we're getting somewhere. In the instance of my interpretation of that number 6, for me, the stimulus that was presented here was the number 6. I chose to interpret it positively, which shifted me to positive lifelines in experiencing further down the line, further down the roll of the film reel, more positive events. So I immediately shift into a reality where I'm experiencing more and more of positive events. However, if I chose to view the number 6 as negative, some people view 6 or 13 as a negative number. Therefore, they shift into lifelines where it is a negative number and unfortunate events do happen. That is very crucial to understand. Your reality is entirely subjective. It is all dependent on the kind of meaning that you put onto it. If you view something as a positive event, then more likely things that happen down the line are more likely to be positive, to be more favorable. That's why if you're grateful for things that you already have now, you're more likely to get things that you are grateful for. Because you exist in that vibration of gratitude. You exist in that vibration of positivity. But something that's very interesting that most people don't know is if you are experiencing a negative reality that you wouldn't like to experience, how do we dissolve it? That's where neutral attention comes in. So I'm going to give you an example of that. Back in 2020, when I first started my business around 2019, in 2020, I saw a significant amount of success. In January of 2020, I hit my first $100,000 month. In February, I hit around $120,000 a month. And what I started to see was I was becoming very fearful. I was accumulating all this money and I was making it. And now suddenly there was a fear of loss. What if I lose it? What if something terrible happens? What if, I get refund requests or something? And what if my clients are dissatisfied? What if something really bad happens? And I just didn't know how to battle this fear. So I gave into it. I got consumed by my fears. I was giving it negative attention. And every single day I was living in fear, and fear of checking my email every morning, fear of checking all my accounts every morning. I was basically just steeped and stupid in fear every single day. And guess what happened? That month I had the highest amount of refund requests, and I was terrified. You know, every single morning I woke up with a pit in my stomach. I was like, oh no, what's going on? Like, how are these all piling up? There was one request, I was like, oh, this is an anomaly. Okay, fine. 2 requests, oh no, what's happening? 3 requests, oh my God, what the heck is happening? I really need to take a step back and evaluate. And so I realized what was happening and that I was attributing negative meaning and tension to it. So I started to look at, hey, why is this happening? Let's neutrally observe it. Okay, I'm neutrally observing it and I'm asking myself, why am I getting a sudden surge in refund requests? Maybe it's because I'm doing such a high volume now compared to before. Maybe this is normal. But maybe there's something that I could improve, and I'm taking that as a lesson. So I begin with neutrally observing it and then doing what's necessary to get me into positive lifelines and seeing how this could potentially be a blessing in disguise. As soon as I started to see this as a blessing in disguise, I could accept within myself that this was somehow positive. This was somehow serving me. See, it made me change my product and make it more valuable so people don't do a refund request. And once I did that, well, the refund request went away. This is one of the biggest lessons that I learned. The other thing that really taught me this lesson of numbers and how to interpret events even, because that number that's being presented to me is an event. I can choose to negatively view it and perceive it and give it a negative meaning, or I could positively perceive it and give it a positive meaning. Just like the birth of my son, like, oh, this is perfect. This is actually a good sign. The number 6 is actually a lucky number for me now. But then what happened was earlier on this year, in February of this year, January, we had a record month and one of my top sales reps did the highest commissions he ever did. And the very next month, he quit. My best salesperson quit. At first, I was panicking. I was like, oh my God, what do I do? I've had this person for a year and a half. You know, I'm doomed. And, you know, traffic was very well. Everything was going really great. But just that one thing was falling apart. And he did a lot for me. So I didn't know how to replace him. But as soon as I came down from that panic, being in that negative lifeline, I realized, hey, what if this was a blessing in disguise? What if this was meant to happen so that I could be uncomfortable and get to that next level? Because earlier on in the year, I made an intention to level up. And guess what happened? I reached out to my pipeline, my audience, and I asked like, hey, you know, I have an opening for a sales position. We ended up hiring 2 killer sales reps. And now they're crushing it. Last month, we just had a record month in the business, even shattering the records in February. So if you choose consciously whatever event is happening, even though in the moment it may not seem positive, whatever you're going through right now, even though in the moment it may not seem positive, something terrible has happened to you, you got hit with a big bill, your business isn't doing well, or you're experiencing a great loss or a great setback, ask yourself just this one question. How could this be a blessing in disguise? If you can find a reason, phenomenal. You're going to shift to positive lifelines as long as you stick to it. If not, the worst case scenario is you at least perceive it as neutral. It's neither good nor bad. It simply happened and I'm fully in acceptance of it. So here's a 30-day exercise that I have for you to fully implement this. And I can promise you if you do this every single day, your life will completely change. So what I want you to do is get like a little journal or something. And in it, I want you to create 2 columns, okay? I want you to create a positive column and a negative column. Keep this journal right next to your bed. And at the end of the day, I want you to do a review. Write down those 3 good things and 3 bad things or negative things, negative events that you perceive negatively. And then at the end, what I want you to do is write down 3 reasons or 3 ways in which these 3 negative things could have been a blessing in disguise. See how it could potentially lead you to something more positive. To give you an example, my best salesperson quit. Oh no, well, what if this was actually a blessing in disguise? What if this helps me become better and fix my systems so that I can become better and hire better salespeople and actually retain them, have a better compensation plan, have a better meeting structure, a better culture in my company? What if that's actually what it leads me to? And this is one of the most important things that you can do. Now that you've watched this video and you're going to implement this 30-day exercise, what I think will be exceptionally valuable for you is to learn what I call the mirror principle. This, in conjunction with the mirror principle, will get you results like nothing else. So when I started on this journey, I was doing a 9-to-5 that I was completely dissatisfied with, and I had no clue on the direction that I wanted to move with, except that I wanted to make 20K a month in entrepreneurship and have more time free so I could travel, do the things that I wanted to do, and spend time with my then girlfriend, now wife. And what really happened from that point 5 years ago to now was not only did I build a business that was doing 20K a month, now we're impacting thousands, hundreds of thousands of people with these videos, and the business is doing over $200,000 a month. So I really want to share this with you, and our mission here is to help every single human being on earth. I know I've mentioned that countless times, but that's why I made this free movie for you that's going to outline the mirror principle as well as go deeper into everything that we just discussed here. And there's a bonus for you in there. There's a 5-video free identity shifting bootcamp, completely free for you to access. There's no catch, okay? You can literally just access all of those right now. Just click on this link and you'll get access to it. And I'll see you in this next video right now. Thanks.